Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So in this video, we're actually going to be discussing and talking about charge coolers. It's a lot of controversy, a lot of 50-50 both ways kind of thing on this whole topic. So what I wanted to do was kind of break down my thought process, my philosophy on charge coolers. You know, should you do one? Should you not do one? The options, the costs and everything. I figured it would be helpful for others since I went through the whole entire process as well. So I wanted to make a dedicated video kind of discussing everything you need to know about charge coolers. So just for reference, this is my 2018 F80 M3 competition. I'm currently running boot mode stage 2. I have the Quintani crank hub done, Venturi intake, charge pipes. I also have some catless resonated downpipes with a full ink customs exhaust and a few other little things here and there. But ultimately, the last thing that I really want to upgrade in my car in terms of performance is the charge cooler. Now, as you can see, I have the stock charge cooler on my S55. So this comes on all F80s, F82, F83s, as well as the F87 M2 competition with the S55. This is not a bad charge cooler. It actually has been said to hold up a decent amount of power, but the issue with it is that once you start really pushing it, and then over time as well, as you can tell, the ends of the charge cooler are made of plastic, and they kind of just have these little tabs that wrap around the sides of it, and these are actually known to crack once you start driving harder and adding more power. And then also internally, all of the coolant lines and stuff and the internals to it are said that it can possibly leak and obviously cause some issues. That one's a little bit harder to diagnose since you can't see the actual leak, although you will see downgrade in performance and you will get a check engine light. So once you start adding more power and you start pushing it, it is definitely wise to upgrade the charge cooler. The main reason is because the aftermarket options, they are much more robust kind of whole entire setup, and they're usually made of one piece. So it allows you to push more boost, it allows you for more performance in terms of more cooling. So it's just a better option all around and something that I definitely recommend doing if you're gonna be pushing more power. Now, should you be adding one if you are completely stock? To me, I think you're just fine on the stock charge cooler. If you're running the stock power, you're not running any performance modifications at all, and you just want to enjoy the S55, I don't think it's 100% necessary. Obviously, if you're having issues and it's cracked and you're starting to get leaking issues and all that stuff, then I do recommend either getting a new OEM charge cooler, or if you want to just kind of completely take the issue out of the equation, just go with aftermarket. But for most people, I think it's okay to stay with the stock charge cooler. However, it's not a matter of if it's going to leak, it's a matter of when. These things, once they start getting up in higher mileage, as they get older, they are known to leak no matter what. Although some people are lucky and they never have to replace it. But if you're running stock power, it's not necessary. I don't think it's a must modification. But for somebody like me that's pushing, a decent amount of power in the S55, I definitely recommend upgrading it just so I can completely take that issue out of the equation. Now, if anybody is curious, I did dress up my stock charge cooler with the One Vision Performance cover. Just adds a little bit of kind of detail to it, because otherwise it's just the silver that you see right here along the whole thing. Pretty darn ugly in the entire engine bay. It's not the prettiest looking piece in here. I mean, you get a beautiful carbon strut brace and everything else is pretty darn nice. You get a nice engine cover, although mine's upgraded with the Venturi stuff. This is probably the biggest eyesore of the entire engine bay. So I just threw that little cover on. It was about $100. I threw it in one of my videos a while ago, putting this on. It adds a nice little contrast, little detail, kind of hides the ugliness of the stock charge cooler. So now that we discussed what a charge cooler is, should you upgrade, shouldn't you upgrade, let's start going over the options. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I'm sure a lot of you actually know already. I've had this thing for a little while, but I went with the Mishimoto charge cooler. So as you can see, this one's a little bit different. I went with the paint matched mineral gray, same color as my car, just to add a little bit of detail to a pretty nice engine bay. You could have just gotten the black one, but I felt like being a little bit extra and spending a little bit more for the color match one. I think it's really nice, and I'm really happy with it. I also, we'll go over this in a little bit, I'm upgrading the J pipe as well, since I'm going to be doing this at the same time. It's definitely recommended to upgrade this as well. This is not something that's very, very expensive. This is pretty darn cheap. It's only around 120 bucks or so. So when you're getting this job done, I highly recommend the J pipe. This one is by ARM Motorsports. They're all very, very similar, all very, very similar finish and fit and everything. So I don't think you can go wrong with any brand out there as long as it's reputable and people obviously have used it and, obviously haven't had any issues. But ARM Motorsports, A lot of people run this one with no issues, and I'm going to be pairing it with the Mishimoto charge cooler. All right, so why did I go with this Mishimoto? A lot of options out there, and most people end up going with a brand called CSF. Very, very popular option. In terms of pricing, it's around $1,500 just for the basic wrinkled black or the raw finish. You can get them a little bit cheaper, but that's usually the rough cost of them. They can go upwards of over $2,000 depending on the finish. You can do a lot of different custom finishes. You can do some hydro dipping. You get it in carbon. It's pretty cool of the different options that they do offer. But at the end of the day, I have heard a lot of things about CSF in terms of not really gaining any performance. It actually decreased performance. That's just me. That's just kind of what I've researched and figured out. I know Brian from Keys actually did a whole entire video doing dyno testing with the CSF and actually showed a downgrade in performance. Although I believe the conclusion of it was due to heat soak as well as not really kind of expecting gains with that. This is not really a performance-oriented game where you're going to see a lot. But at the end of the day, I want to at least, if I'm not able to gain anything, I want to at least keep the amount of power the same. I don't want to go downgrade. I don't want to spend all this time and money to invest in an upgrade when in reality it's going to be a downgrade and just doesn't really make that much sense. Yes, they are really nice. I do think they offer some nice products, but for this specific engine, the S55, I don't think that the CSF is the most popular and best option to go with. So now let's go into some other options. There's a few different, less expensive options, less, expensive alternatives. I don't necessarily think they're bad, but I don't want to be the guinea pig and put it on my personal car and try it out. I've seen kind of back and forth 50-50 as well with those lesser, cheaper brands. I'm not going to get into specifics of the actual brands, but I've heard that, they can go both ways. I've had issues, I've had issues, and just kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. If I'm going to spend the time and money and effort to upgrade my car, I want to make sure I'm doing it right. So I'd rather spend a little bit more, get a reputable brand, and put in the time and effort to actually upgrade the car and not make it worse. Now, the only other brand that I was actually considering other than Mishimoto was the Wagner. The Wagner is probably one of the most popular, and I don't want to say the best option, but one of the best options to go with. There's two main reasons why I decided not to go with that. The first reason and the main reason is I think the Wagner is better if you're going for a lot of horsepower. So if you're pushing 700-800 horsepower, some crazy numbers, I think the Wagner would definitely shine in that territory. I don't plan on going up to that crazy power. I don't think it's necessary in this car. So going with something like the Wagner, I didn't think was 100% necessary. It is really nice. I do think a lot of people go with them. I do think it's very, very quality. But for my specific application, I didn't find it necessary to go with the Wagner. The second reason why I didn't go with it is that I've heard it has some fitment issues. On the actual Wagner, I don't have one here obviously, but the top of the Wagner is actually kind of bubble shaped. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because it is said to have some fitment issues with the hood. Now, not necessarily on the F80 or F82s, but I've heard, I know there's fitment issues on the F87 M2 competition hoods. A lot of people have to cut out around here in order for it to fit properly. Also, I've heard if you go with a GTS or CS hood, you will have fitment issues as well. I didn't really want to, cut up a hood or anything like that to get it to fit properly. Also, I've heard some of the inlets and everything like that are not properly pitched right. So it doesn't really click into the coolant lines and everything like that. So a couple things here and there that made me a little bit iffy on going with the Wagner. I do think it's a really nice option, but for my specific application, I don't think it was the right choice. Now, in terms of the pricing for the Wagner, it's around $1,500 to $1,600. So very, very competitive with the CSF, as well as the Mishimoto that we're going to go into in a second. So it's really dependent on what you think is best for your application. So the last and final option that obviously I decided to go with is the Mishimoto. The reason why I decided to go with the Mishimoto is because every single review that I've ever read and any research that I've done kind of all pointed back to Mishimoto saying that it was the best option. It was proving gains. It's said to have around 11 horsepower worth of gains. It's very, very nicely made, super robust. All the welds are really nice. All the fins inside are really nice as well. I don't know if you can really see that, probably not, but it's a really nice unit. Not to say that the others aren't, but I'm very, very impressed with the overall quality of this. And all the reviews and everything that I've read in terms of the actual look of it and the performance of it seem to be true. Now, obviously, I don't have mine installed yet. Next video, I'm actually going to be installing it and showing you the walkthrough of that. But I've heard really great things, and seeing that there's actually proving gains and a lot of R&D behind this, I think it's going to be a really good option for mine. Now, again, this is just preventative. I don't have a leaky charge cooler. I don't have any issues right now, but since I'm pushing quite a bit more power than stock, I think it's necessary to do it. And for, the 1,500 bucks or so that this one cost, you can probably find it a little bit cheaper. Again, I got the paint match, so it was a little bit more. I do think it's worth it when you are pushing the performance of these motors, these things. Brand new from BMW, the S55 is around 20 grand, but I'd rather be proactive instead of reactive and kind of get ahead of this stuff. Reliability mods are stuff that I love doing. I love getting ahead of that stuff. I love kind of preventing me from ever having any issues with specific problem areas. And the reason for that is because it allows me just to enjoy the car even more. It allows me not to worry, and I can just drive for many, many miles and not have to think about it ever again. Another quick thing that I recommend doing is your J-pipe. The J-pipe is actually the pipe that connects to the charge cooler underneath right there. It is made of plastic on the OEM one. It has been known to crack and create boost leaks and just cause issues. So you want to upgrade to something made of metal, something a little bit more robust, something that's going to last. And it's right there as soon as you take off the charge cooler. So I recommend upgrading yours. A lot of different brands out there. Again, I went with the ARM Motorsports one. Looks great, feels great. Definitely going to be a really nice addition to my upgrade with the Mishimoto. So honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with any brand out there. They all have great fitment. It's kind of hard to screw this up. They're also relatively cheap. This one was, I think it was like 120, 140 bucks or so. So not that expensive considering, the charge cooler is $1,000 plus. So 100 bucks or so to get this done. I highly recommend it. Don't skip out on it, just do it. So before we wrap this up, one thing I want to go over really quickly is that I'm a really, really big advocate on doing supporting mods with anything performance oriented. One of the things that I always preached with my STI on the EJ25 is that if you're gonna modify it, make sure you do it right. Spend the money, do all the supporting mods with it, and use reputable brands. I understand people want power for as cheap as possible. I get it, I've been there, but I promise you, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, you put in the money to do reputable brands and to do it the right way with the supporting mods, I promise you, you're gonna have a much better and more enjoyable experience with your cars. My STI has moved on to the new owner. We're over a year since I've had that car, and that guy is still ripping it with all the modifications that I put in that car. This motor is strong and absolutely killing it. So it's just a testament over the last 6 years that I kind of preached that if you do it right, if you spend the money on proper modifications and supporting mods and reputable brands, you're gonna have a really enjoyable experience. So it kind of comes down to this. If you're gonna be adding power, if you're gonna be doing stuff like this, I'd recommend doing the charge cooler. Do a reputable brand like Mishimoto. If you want to do another one, that's totally fine. That's up to you. All right, guys. So there you go. There is everything you need to know about charge coolers for the S55. I hope this gave some clarity as to what it is, what it does, the costs involved, the different options, and ultimately what I think is the best option and if you should do it or not. At the end of the day, it's your car. You're going to do what you want. My main goal is just to try to lead you guys in the right direction so you can enjoy your S55s, your M2, M3, M4s to the fullest and not have to worry about stuff like this. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Next video, we're going to be installing this. I'm going to be doing a full walkthrough of everything, showing you how to get this done. And obviously we can test it out and see if there's any performance gains or anything that I feel. But we will see once we get that installed. Going to be doing it here in the garage, showing you how to get it done with basic hand tools. You don't have to go to a shop or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm looking forward to that install. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, be sure to ask them below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.